Welcome to Global Voices, where every story matters. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Global Voices, the podcast where readers and writers will share their love and passion for books. My name is Douda Medra, and this is the third episode of Writing Beyond Borders. Today, I will be chatting to Chaitali Sengupta. Chaitali, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Toyota, first of all, for having me on your show. And it is absolutely wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
It's a pleasure. Now, Chaitali, I know that you do a lot of things, but today I want to focus our conversation on your writing journey, so your life as a writer.
I was born and raised in India, and I relocated to the Netherlands about almost 24 years ago.
Okay.
I completed my studies in India, where I earned a degree in English literature, as well as degrees in journalism and mass communication. And later, when I relocated to the Netherlands, I also earned a degree in business administration. But becoming a writer did not happen as per plan. That was not my plan. As a child, I had great love for words, and I enjoyed listening to the tales told by my grandfather. As I grew older in school, this love changed into a passion. So I participated in writing competitions. I expanded my reading horizons, thanks in part to my father, who was an avid reader. And he encouraged me to explore reading different genres, poetry, short stories, novels, even travelogues. And in college, I began writing small poems, and my first poem was published in a national daily in India. At that time, I was still a college student. My professors also encouraged me to take my writing seriously, and I'm very lucky to be in touch with them, with some of them at least, and get their guidance. They constantly encourage me in my writing endeavors, and I feel very lucky to have their support. So before I relocated to the Netherlands, my work was being published in the magazines and newspapers in India. But I was not really ready. I was not really prepared to bring out my own book. It's a huge thing. It's a huge responsibility to bring out your own book. I was not ready for that yet.
Okay.
So after relocating to the Netherlands, I continued to write, but mostly for myself and a few close friends, because language was a barrier at that time for me. I did not know the local language, Dutch. Later on, I learned it. Later in 2019, my first work of translation was published. So that was a book which originally was written by a Bengali writer. Bengali is my mother tongue, actually. And I translated it into English. And this was followed by my first solo book of prose poems, The Cross-Stitched Words. And this book finally received an honorary mention award in the New England Book Festival. It was my passion for words, reading, writing that finally led me to become a writer. That is how I see it.
I know that you came to the Netherlands for love, so you are not a war refugee. Is that right?
Yes, I am not a war refugee. I
But
came
you
here.
Still wrote The Crossing.
I still wrote The Crossings.
Why?
Yes.
What inspired you?
See, the Crossings, poems on war, migration, and survival is my second book. I also have a copy of that book.
Yes,
I can show it to the reader.
Please. Yes. Okay. I've seen that one on LinkedIn, actually, but I don't have a copy.
Copy of it, yeah. So this is my second book of poems. And in this book, I have drawn upon several sources to write this book. If you read the book, you will see that the book is divided into three segments: war, migration, and survival. So what prompted me to write this book? There are several things, so I'll try to give in very brief what exactly brought out this book. War has always been with mankind, from the dawn of history. War, it seems like, has woven itself into the fabric of human memory, if I can put it like that. So my book explores the many facets of war, and it begins with the ancient conflict of Kurukshetra from the Indian historical epic, the Mahabharata. Then I have talked about the two great wars, the great world wars that were fought in Europe.
Mhm.
I have also written about the partition of India that happened in 1947. It was not a war, but it was a migration, that displaced millions of people, and it has left its deep scars on the subcontinent. Then, of course, there is a poem on the contemporary conflict, such as the war in Ukraine. So these poems, if you read, you will see I am not talking about the complex geopolitics of war. The complex geopolitics of war is to be found on the news channels,
Yeah.
in the newspapers, in
We
the
have enough.
journalistic.
We have enough of that,
We have,
actually.
exactly. That's my word. That's my take on it. We have enough of it. My voice in this book is the voice of a poet. Okay, and I have focused on the humanitarian catastrophe that happens due to the war. What happens when people like you and me get caught in this situation?
Yes.
When war comes to a particular country, what is the feeling of the people who are living there, right? So the poems actually are written from the perspective of common men, soldiers, children, especially children, because children, you see, the war children, so to say. We now have coined a very nice word, war children. But I feel so,
It's so painful.
it is so painful, and think about the parents who have to protect their children when war comes to their life, so that is the aspect. What were my sources here? The sources were, like you said, I am not a war refugee or a war survivor, but when I came to this country, I met with many friends. When I was taking my Dutch classes, I met with many people who came from war torn countries, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Mexico, and all those, Venezuela, those places, right? And Bulgaria was also there, and there were also people from Serbia, and they used to talk about their experiences, what made them flee their country. So those things you will find in this book. That is what you will find in the first segment. In the second segment, what happens? So the war, the very common thing that follows is migration, is forced migration, because that is what happens when war comes to hit you in a country, right? So in the second segment, I draw upon insights gained from my interactions with forced migrants during my time as a translator for an organization dedicated to their needs. So I was working there as a volunteer translator, and there my task was to translate the pamphlets, the articles,
Yes.
the stories that dealt with this group of people into English. So while doing that, I really met with these people, and it's their stories stayed with me, because this I'm talking about, 2017, 2018, that time.
So
But
these
the
are
stories stayed.
living stories that
Yeah,
you got from them, and actually you put in a way in your book.
absolutely, because I thought finally that this narrative must also be created, because these people, they have lost so much that they cannot come out and speak for themselves. So there must be a narrative which must also come out, and which must also tell people what goes through these characters. So these are personal stories that bring out the profound impact of conflict and displacement on individuals and families. And in the third part, I talk about the survivors. I seek to bring to light the voices of those people who have endured unimaginable hardships in their search for stability and safety. Because what I found out when I was talking to these people were that Uh, None of them wanted to leave their house. Nobody wants to leave their home. No matter
Okay.
how small your home is, no matter how poor or how whatever your home is, it is your home. You feel safe and secure there. Nobody wants to leave their home unless you are really forced to do that. And I thought that is a perspective which probably we miss. We only think that, okay, these people are refugees, these people are migrants who are coming from different countries. But what I understood after interacting with them is that they really miss that home. They really miss that home, and they want to, if there was a chance, they would really go back there.
Just listening to you, I'm having, how is the word? Kippenvel. I forgot the word in English now.
Goosebumps.
Yes, exactly.
Goosebumps.
So,
Yeah.
if you can choose a short passage to read it today, what would that one be? That you are more attached to a poem in that book. What would that one be? And can you read just something short?
Of course, I will. There are several poems actually.
There are several that you are in love with, but just pick one.
Yeah, so I will choose one from the survival section,
Okay.
where the poem has been written from the perspective of a child from a child who was torn apart, in the war. This is Children of Borders, and it says, "The morning closes in around us, I and Laila, the lost girls from the blue Nile, the girls who forgot their ways. To get lost is to learn the way," says an African proverb. There was no way left when the fires burnt our hearts, devoured our families, thousands of people from our village gunned down. We are left with a restless pit in our stomachs, like an engine growling, but we are not hungry anymore. Sometimes we sleep in the camp. In my dream, I fetch the couscous and caress the bluebells in our yard. Run, run, Yana and Laila. Baba's last words vessel within me, rattle like mice with sharp paws. We run. We escape from the cracked past, turn our backs to the place that was once home. Run, run, Yana and Laila. Running, you see, gets easier once you run. For that is all there is. We don't run now. There is no need. Our legs are bandaged. In the camp, there is a guard. She talks about monsters under the bed. Sometimes it comes to claim you, she says, her tone very grim. Laila is afraid of monsters. So are Karim, Beina, Po, and Misha. I decide to tell them the truth. Monsters are better. If they only stayed under the bed, I think they are better. Besides, no one will come to claim us. Not even the monsters. We are the children of borders, the orphans of war. We are like time that goes but never comes back.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing it. You won the runner-up prize in London. Mm-hmm. How was that experience for you? How did you, in my case, for example, I really don't like competition. I'm scared to send my work out there. And so I stay behind. I just don't participate. But in your case, you won that prize. How did it feel?
Yeah, I must also tell you that I'm also very afraid of competitions, and this one, my publisher, he actually, kind of suggested that I would like to send your book to that event or that competition,
okay,
if you agree with it. So I was a bit hesitant because I knew that my book would be up against, brilliant authors. Yeah, against brilliant works. So
that's the fear that is holding us back.
Yeah, and that is there. Also, I always feel that I'm writing it for my own pleasure, right? So somebody, I don't want to compete like that, but the publisher, he was very interested in it and he said, let me send it. So I said, okay, fine, go ahead, please. So yes, I was pleasantly surprised for this professional recognition because, like I said, my book was competing against brilliant authors and their work. And in fact, I must also mention that I shared the runners up with E.M. Schrobb's very beautiful work, Words in Passing. That was his book. So, the experience is one of the messages that I received after the award was that the book had good impact and resonance with readers and critics alike. That usually happens very rarely.
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah. So I see that as a validation of the book's worthiness. Maybe I can put it like that. And it's also a personal validation because I was very skeptical how the work would be viewed. When I was writing, I was continuously, it was there in my mind that how people are going to react to this book.
Mm-hmm.
So this honor actually reaffirmed my belief in my craft. You are also a writer, tutor, so you know that writing is a very lonely job.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to write. So concentration, your attention to detail, uh, your ability to shut out the distractions. And then when you are done, you are still not done because you must do the editing, the proofreading.
You are never done. You are
never done. That's it.
Even when your book is published, you are not done because then you will hear critics and you will read reviews. Yeah. So actually, you are never done with a book.
Absolutely. I so agree with you. And so, after all that kind of hard work, if your work gets critical recognition, then it brings a sense of fulfillment. And it's unique and special. And I'm very grateful to the universe, to God. It's a profound milestone in my writing career. And most of all, I'm very happy that the book has created a narrative that was much needed in today's world. Well, the sales unfortunately didn't get impacted by this, but surely people have become aware of the book due to the award. And I do receive messages where readers speak about their expectation of good work from me in future. And I also see that people are a bit more curious these days, about how I write, why I write, how do I choose.
Maybe it didn't impact the sales, but it impacted your inner spirit, your inner soul. That hey, you can do this.
Absolutely, yes, and I'm so happy that I finally could bring it out to the people.
Did you celebrate?
Unfortunately, I didn't celebrate like that, tutor. But you are probably the fourth person in this month to be asking me this question, and I'm just saying, is the universe trying to give me some hint?
Then we should do something.
We have to do something. Yes, because you don't write a book every day, and not every day you win an award. So probably the universe is trying to tell me that you have worked hard. Now go and do some fun thing.
Yes,
probably.
It's time to enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah.
Your native language is Bengali, and you speak fluent Dutch, but you have chosen to write in English. Why is that?
That is a very important question, I feel. So, I'll put it like this way. I come from India. It's a big country. We have 22 major languages there. 22. And there are many more unofficial ones, So, while all the major Indian languages are equally rich in their literature, it isn't possible for us to know all the 22 languages. So, if you go to India, a large cross section of Indian population speaks and works in English. As India has a rich colonial history, being ruled by the British, so the affinity towards English is bound to be there. But I must also say, most Indian writers who write in English these days do not suffer from the colonial hangover, and neither do I. I write in English as my education was done in English, And unfortunately, I did not get the opportunity to pursue my education in my mother language. So I'm more confident in expressing myself in English. But of course, I learned to read, write, and speak in my mother tongue, which is Bengali, and which is spoken by more than 230 million people in the world, with very rich literature. But since I did not formally study Bengali, it is not my primary medium of writing. So writing in English also, kind of, how should I say it? It also influences my storytelling. You know how? Because it reaches the global readers. When I write in English, it reaches the global readers, and I'm able to tell my story in a language that is understood easily by the world. And but then I also do a lot of translations, like translating from the Indian languages into English, from Dutch to English. So I'm just among all kinds of languages. Yeah, I feel good to do that.
Is your book translated in Dutch?
No, not yet. And some people are suggesting that you should do it yourself.
And what do you think about that? Do you feel like writing it in Dutch?
No, I'm not confident. I am not confident. I'll tell you why. Because, yes, I speak Dutch. This is poetry, and poetry has. My Dutch is, I think that my Dutch is not that brilliant as my English, so I will not be able to do justice to if I translate it myself. But if somebody would do it for myself, who is really, a translator in Dutch of poetry, I think I would really be interested.
Yes. Okay. I have the same feeling, actually. My books are not in Dutch yet.
Yeah.
But I don't think I will ever write them in Dutch myself. But yeah, if it will happen sometime in the future, I would love to have them in Dutch as well. So yeah,
yes, you should. Yeah.
Chaitali, I am not going to ask you, are you working on something? Because I know that we as a writer, we are always busy working on something. So my question is going to be, what are you working on right now?
Well, you yourself answered that question, that we as writers, we are continuously working on something or the other, right? So technically speaking, yes, I am at the moment busy giving final shape to a translation work. It is a book by the famous Dutch author, Louis Couperus, and I have translated one of his books into English for the international readers. For all those who do not know who Couperus was, he is one of the very well-known Dutch novelist and poet of the early 20th century. He died almost 100 years ago in 1923. But he has written a whole lot of books, historical novels, short stories, fairy tales, lyric poetry, a lot of books. And during his lifetime, he was very popular. His works were translated into English and German, which was quite, quite unique, because 100 years back, you can understand it. Only those people who were really brilliant and really doing extraordinary work, their works used to get translated. So this translation work, I'm happy to share on your show that it is accepted by a publisher. Wow. I worked 2 years, the book was there, it was ready, the translation was ready, it was in my laptop. I tried so many publishers in the Netherlands, but they were all very happy that I have taken up a project like that. But since it was coming out in English, nobody was willing to bring it out, because most of the publishers in the Netherlands bring out the books in Dutch, not in English.
Yes, exactly. I have the same problem as well.
Yeah. So this translation work is now accepted by a publisher after 2 years of searching, and I'm now busy with the editing work, And other than that, parallelly, I'm busy with a historical fiction, which is based on a brave warrior queen from India who rose up against the mighty British Empire. So I'm busy writing the first draft, and so these two works are keeping me busy at the
Okay,
moment.
so you are working basically on two projects right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, where can our readers find your work?
Yeah, the readers can find all my books on Amazon worldwide,
Okay.
and also on Amazon.nl, .de.
Yes.
Also, yeah. So it's
That's the
basically on
German.
Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Chaitali, thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. And keep in mind, we have to celebrate for your runner-up prize.
Yes, yes, yes.